Willie Nelson was born in Abbott, Texas on April 29, 1933, the son of Merle Marie Crenshaw and Ira Doyle Nelson. His birth was incorrectly recorded by Dr. F.D. Sims as April 30th. He was named Willie by his cousin Mildred, who also chose Hugh as his middle name in honor of her recently deceased younger brother. Nelson traces his genealogy to the American Revolutionary War, in which his ancestor John Nelson served as a major. His parents moved to Texas from Arkansas in 1929 to look for work. His grandfather William worked as a blacksmith, while his father worked as a mechanic. His mother left soon after he was born, and his father remarried and also moved away, leaving Nelson and his sister Bobby to be raised by their grandparents, who taught singing back in Arkansas and started their grandchildren in music. Nelson's grandfather bought him a guitar when he was 6 and taught him a few chords, and Nelson sang gospel songs in the local church alongside Bobby. He wrote his first song at age 7, and when he was 9, he played guitar for local band Bohemian Polka. During the summer, the family picked cotton alongside other Abbott residents. Nelson disliked picking cotton, so he earned money by singing in dance halls, taverns, and honky-tonks from age 13, which he continued through high school. His musical influences were Hank Williams, Bob Wills, Lefty Frizzell, Ray Price, Ernest Tubb, Hank Snow, and Django Reinhardt, Frank Sinatra, and Louis Armstrong. Nelson attended Abbott High School, where he was a halfback on the football team, guard on the basketball team, and shortstop in baseball. He also raised pigs with the Future Farmers of America. While still at school, he sang and played guitar in the Texans, a band formed by his sister's husband, Bud Fletcher. The band played in honky-tonks and also had a Sunday morning spot at KHBR in Hillsboro, Texas. Meanwhile, Nelson had a short stint as a relief phone operator in Abbott, followed by a job as a tree trimmer for the local electric company, as well as a pawn shop employee. After leaving school in 1950, he joined the United States Air Force. He served for 9 months before medically being discharged because of issues with his back. Upon his return in 1952, he married Martha Matthews, and from 1954 to 1956 studied agriculture at Baylor University, where he joined the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity until dropping out to pursue a career in music. He worked as a nightclub bouncer, auto house partsman, saddle maker, and tree trimmer. He later joined Johnny Bush's band. Nelson moved with his family to Pleasanton, Texas, where he auditioned for a job as a DJ at KBOP. The owner of the station, Dr. Ben Parker, gave Nelson the job despite his lack of experience working on radio. With the equipment of the station, Nelson made his first 2 recordings in 1955, "The Storm Has Just Begun," and "When I've Sung My Last Hillbilly Song." He recorded the tracks on used tapes and sent the demos to the local label SARG Records, which rejected them. He then had stints working for KDNT in Denton, KCUL, and KCNC in Fort Worth, where he hosted the Western Express, taught Sunday school, and played in nightclubs. He then decided to move to San Diego, but when he was unable to find a job there, he hitchhiked to Portland, Oregon, where his mother lived. When nobody picked him up, he ended up sleeping in a ditch before hopping a freight train bound for Eugene. A truck driver drove him to the bus station and loaned him $10 for a ticket to reach Portland. Nelson was hired by KVAN in Vancouver, Washington and appeared frequently on a television show. He made his first record in 1956, No Place for Me, that included Leon Payne's Lumberjack on the B-side. The recording failed. Nelson continued working as a radio announcer and singing in Vancouver clubs. He made several appearances in a Colorado nightclub, later moving to Springfield, Missouri. After failing to land a spot on the Ozark Jubilee, he started to work as a dishwasher. Unhappy with his job, he moved back to Texas. After a short time in Waco, he settled in Fort Worth and quit the music business for a year. He sold Bibles and vacuum cleaners door to door and eventually became a sales manager for the Encyclopedia Americana. After his son Billy was born in 1958, the family moved to Houston, Texas. On the way, Nelson stopped by the Esquire Ballroom to sell his original songs to house band singer Larry Butler. Butler refused to purchase the song Mr. Record Man for $10, instead giving Nelson a $50 loan to rent an apartment and a 6-night job singing in the club. Nelson rented the apartment near Houston in Pasadena, Texas, where he also worked at the radio station as the sign-on disc jockey. During this time, he recorded 2 singles for Pappy Daly on D Records, Man with the Blues, The Storm Has Just Begun, and What a Way to Live, Misery Mansion. Nelson then was hired by guitar instructor Paul Buskirk to work as an instructor in his school. He sold Family Bible to Buskirk for $50 and Nightlife for $150. Family Bible turned into a hit for Claude Gray in 1960. Nelson moved to Nashville, Tennessee in 1960, but was unable to find a label to sign him. During this period, he often spent time at Tootsie's Orchard Lounge, a bar near the Grand Ole Opry, frequented by the show's stars and other singers and songwriters. There, Nelson met Hank Cochran, a songwriter who worked for the publishing company Pamper Music, owned by Ray Price and Hal Smith. Cochran heard Nelson during a jam session with Buddy Emmons and Jimmy Day. Cochran had just earned a raise of $50 a week, but convinced Smith to pay Nelson the money instead to sign him to Pamper Music. On hearing Nelson sing Hello Walls at Tootsie's, Fair and Young decided to record it. After Ray Price recorded Nelson's Nightlife and his previous bassist Johnny Paycheck quit, Nelson joined Price's touring band as a bass player. While playing with Price and the Cherokee Cowboys, his song became hits for other artists, including Funny How Time Slips Away, Billy Walker, Pretty Paper, Roy Orbison, and most famously Crazy by Patsy Cline. Nelson and Cochran also met Cline's husband, Charlie Dick, at Tootsie's. Dick liked a song of Nelson's he heard on the bar's jukebox. Nelson played him a demo tape of Crazy. Later that night, Dick played the tape for Cline, who decided to record it. Crazy became the biggest jukebox hit of all time. Nelson signed with Liberty Records and was recording by August 1961 at Quonset Hut Studio. His first 2 successful singles as an artist were released by the next year, including Willingly, a duet with his soon-to-be second wife, Shirley Coley, which became his first charting single and first top 10, and Touch Me, his second top 10, stalling at number 7. Nelson's tenure at Liberty yielded his first album entitled And Then I Wrote, released in September of 1962. In 1963, Colin and Nelson were married in Las Vegas. He then worked on the West Coast office of Pamper Records, Pico Rivera, California. Since the job did not allow him the time to play music of his own, he left it and bought a ranch in Ridgetop, Tennessee, outside of Nashville, Fred Foster of Monument Records signed Nelson in early 1964, but only one single was released, I Never Cared for You. By the fall of 1964, Nelson had moved to RCA Victor at the behest of Chet Atkins, signing a contract for $10,000 per year. Country Willie, his own songs, became Nelson's first RCA Victor album, recorded in April of 1965. That same year, he joined the Grand Ole Opry, and he met and became friends with Waylon Jennings after watching one of his shows in Phoenix, Arizona. In 1967, he formed his backing band, the Record Men, featuring Johnny Bush, Jimmy Day, Paul English, and David Zettner. During his first few years on RCA Victor, Nelson had no significant hits, but from November 1966 through March 1969, his singles reached the top 25 in a consistent manner. One in a Row, number 19 in 1966, The Party's Over, number 24 during a 16-week chart run in 1967, and his cover of Morcombe and Wise's Bring Me Sunshine, number 13, March 1969, were Nelson's best-selling records during his time with RCA. By 1970, most of Nelson's songwriting royalties were invested in tours that did not produce significant profits. In addition to the problems in his career, Nelson divorced Shirley Coley in 1970. In December, his ranch in Ridgetop, Tennessee, burnt down. He interpreted the incident as a signal for a change. He moved to a ranch near Bandera, Texas, and married Connie Kopke. In early 1961, his single, In a Memory, reached the top 30. After he recorded his final RCA single, Mountain Dew, in late April 1972, RCA requested that Nelson renew his contract ahead of schedule, with the implications that RCA would not release his latest recordings if he didn't do it. Due to the failure of his albums, and particularly frustrated by the reception of Yesterday's Wine, although his contract was not over, Nelson decided to retire from music. Willie Nelson moved to Austin, Texas, where the hippie music scene rejuvenated the singer. His popularity in Austin soared as he played his own brand of country music, marked by country, folk, and jazz influences. In March, he performed on the final day of the Dripping Springs Reunion, a 3-day country festival aimed by its producers to be an annual event. Despite the failure to reach the expected attendance, the concept of the festival inspired Nelson to create the 4th of July Picnic, his own annual event, starting the following year. Nelson decided to return to the recording business. He signed Neil Rushin as his manager to negotiate with RCA, who got the label to agree to end his contract upon repayment of $14,000. Rushin eventually signed Nelson to Atlantic Records for $25,000 per year, where he became the label's first country artist. He formed his backing band, The Family, and by February 1973, he was recording his acclaimed Shotgun Willie at Atlantic Studios in New York City. Shotgun Willie was released in May 1973 and earned excellent reviews, but did not sell well. The album led Nelson to a new style, later stating that Shotgun Willie had cleared his throat. His next release, Phases and Stages, released in 1974, was a concept album about a couple's divorce, inspired by his own experience. Side 1 of the record is from the viewpoint of the woman, and Side 2 is from the viewpoint of the man. The album, including the hit single Bloody Mary Morning. The same year, he produced and starred in the pilot episode of PBS's Austin City Limits. Nelson then moved to Columbia Records, where he signed a contract that gave him complete creative control, made possible by the critical and commercial success of his previous albums. The result was the critically acclaimed and massively popular 1975 concept album Redheaded Stranger. Although Columbia was reluctant to release an album with primarily a guitar and piano for accompaniment, Nelson and Waylon Jennings insisted. The album included a cover of Fred Rose's 1945 song, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, that had been released as a single previous to the album, and became Nelson's first #1 hit as a singer. Throughout his 1975 tour, Nelson raised funds for PBS-affiliated stations across the South promoting Austin city limits. The pilot was aired first on those stations, later being released nationwide. The positive reception of the show prompted PBS to order 10 episodes for 1976, formally launching the show. As Jennings was also achieving success in country music in the early 1970s, the pair were combined into a genre called outlaw country, since it did not conform to Nashville standards. The album Wanted, The Outlaws in 1976, with Jesse Coulter and Tom Paul Glacier, cemented the pair's outlaw image and became country music's first platinum album. Later that year, Nelson released The Sound in Your Mind, certified gold in 1978 and platinum in 2001, and his first gospel album, Troublemaker, certified gold in 1986. In the summer of 1977, Nelson discovered that Russian had been filing tax extensions and not paying the Internal Revenue Service, since he took over as his manager. In June, a package containing cocaine was sent from Russian's office in New York to Jennings in Nashville. The package was followed by the DEA, and Jennings was arrested. The charges were later dropped. Impressed by his attitude, Nelson fired Russian and hired Rothbaum as his manager. In 1978, Nelson released 2 more platinum albums. One, Waylon and Willie, was a collaboration with Jennings that included Mama Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, a hit single written and performed by Ed Bruce. Though observers predicted that Stardust would ruin his career, it went platinum the same year. Nelson continued to top the charts with hit songs during the late 1970s, including Good-Hearted Woman, Remember Me, If You've Got the Money, I've Got the Time, and Uncloudy Day. During the 1980s, Nelson recorded a series of hit singles, including Midnight Rider, a 1980 cover of the Allman Brothers song, which Nelson recorded for the Electric Horsemen. The soundtrack, On the Road Again, from the movie Honeysuckle Rose, and a duet with Julio Iglesias, To All the Girls I've Loved Before. In 1982, Pancho and Lefty, a duet album with Merle Haggard, produced by Chips Moman, was released. During the recording session of Pancho and Lefty, session guitarist Johnny Christopher and a co-writer of Always on My Mind tried to pitch the song to an uninterested Haggard. Nelson, who was unaware of Elvis Presley's version of the song, asked him to record it. Produced by Moman, the single of the song was released, as well as the album of the same name. The single topped Billboard's Hot Country Singles, while it reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. The release won 3 awards during the 25th Annual Grammy Awards: Song of the Year, Best Country Song, and Best Male Country Vocal Performance. The single was certified platinum, while the album was certified quadruple platinum and later inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2008. Meanwhile, 2 collaborations with Waylon Jennings were released: WW2 in 1982 and Take It to the Limit. Another collaboration with Waylon Jennings was released in 1983. In the mid-1980s, Nelson, Jennings, Christopherson, and Johnny Cash formed the Highwaymen, a supergroup who achieved platinum record sales and toured the world. Meanwhile, Nelson became more involved with charity work, such as singing on We Are the World in 1984. In 1985, Nelson had another success with Half Nelson, a compilation album of duets with a range of artists such as Ray Charles and Neil Young. In 1980, Nelson performed on the South Lawn of the White House. The concept of September 13th featured First Lady Rosalind Carter and Nelson in a duet of Ray Willie Hubbard's Up Against the Wall Redneck Mother. Nelson frequently visited the White House, where, according to the biography by Joe Nick Badowski, Willie Nelson, An Epic Life, he smoked marijuana on the White House roof. And the rest, as they say, is history. Okay, that's the end of our video. I sure hope you enjoyed it. If you like this type of video and want us to keep producing them, please like and subscribe. And as always, thank you very much for watching.